build my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder.
Oh, there we go. Sweet. Okay. I hate ending it in the middle of a song, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
How are you? How does that
Good,
come
Lord.
through? Does that
Huh?
come through? Is it loud? Is that like
No, the volume seems good. It's kind of choppy, but that could just be on my end.
oh, okay. Okay, cool. Excellent. So how are you tonight?
Doing good.
Good. We almost got our garden almost done, dear
Oh,
Lord.
good.
Yeah. It's like hilarious how much work that is. But I got to
Yeah.
go watch my nephew shoot though.
Oh, cool.
I don't know how you did that. So if for those that are watching, her
Yep.
boy did the shoot. I think I got home at 8 and then he had awards after that. So
Yeah,
I was like,
it's a long
whoa,
day.
they had to be there at like 9.
Yeah, it's a
We'll
long
bring
day.
papers, food trucks. It was
Yeah.
pretty epic. So I was going, that was pretty cool. He did really well though for it's a very focused, interesting sport, man.
Was
Like,
it the state meet?
so it's
The,
something with the state or the conference or something. So it's
yeah,
like,
this is like the
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And so it was up in Lansing. And
yeah.
so he did really well. Their team was really good. But yeah, I guess they go to the national one later, but wow, that was that was a lot. That was
Yeah,
I could see a little intensity there,
for sure.
especially when I couldn't shoot like two of those little things. So
Practice makes perfect.
right. So tonight will be fun. I think it's going to be kind of an interesting journey. Hopefully it will kind of enlighten people on like a different approach, right? So one that we can take, not a one that's like it's not for everybody, right? In the sense of like what people do with the attention deficit, sleep. They all kind of intermingle in my mind. So like with kids, the interaction, there's so many different variances of these different kind of conditions. So we want to walk through those and then see how it works, right? So see how you guys, and maybe it'll give my parents some like ability to like have a little bit of like control over what is happening. So, and we'll give us some cool stories too. The other thing is I'm almost set up for, and this is something Amy doesn't have to do, but it'll be part of our Substat or our tribe stuff on Sunday. But I'm getting back into the podcasting part. So I'm getting that set up in my barn. That'll be sweet. Sometimes Amy might want to come over because we're going to try to interview some awesome ones. But so I'm learning how to do it. I'm pretty pumped. There's like a Zoom connection that you can do the whole thing and like create a podcast out of the same thing. So that's pretty cool. So with that being said, what I want to do is go through. So we're gonna do our ones I found today, which I got a good one. I got a few good ones, but 6 ways to maintain optimal brain function. This is from Dr. Mercola. And they're going to be kind of, you probably understand these already. So the first one, which is hilarious because I just did this to my mother and she thought I was nuts at first and now she can't stop doing them. But do puzzles or learn something new. no matter what, always constantly trying to learn something new or some type of puzzle. I got her that for I think it was for her birthday. And she was like, I don't do puzzles. And then it's like I am addicted. So that was kind of hilarious. So I go, I know, Ma, you got to try this. Just try it for me. I promise you. And she's like, that is really good. So I go, it's totally different. Like it depends on the situation. Good sleep, we know that. Getting good quality sleep is a good thing. And these are all things to maintain that brain health because that's a thing. That's a thing that as we age, a lot of people have a major concern with that. Good diet. Good diet is always good. Staying away from the seed oils, which we'll talk about, which is kind of interesting what I'm going to say later. Um, this one's good. I love improve current relationships but also forge new ones. So that's the, five and or 4 and 5. So 4 and 5 is make sure your current relationships are good, but try to seek out those new relationships out there, So it's kind of cool. Like you can go join a club or, do something like that or find another interest out there and just put yourself out there. And that really, really helps. Regular exercise. So those are the 6. But this one's very good. Well, I got 2 really good ones. So there's this thing in herbal. It's not a seed oil, so don't think that. So a seed oil is totally different. You're talking canolas and corn oils and those kind of things. This one's called black seed oil, and it's been used in herbal remedies for a long time as the oil they would go to, right? So black seed oil has so many it's in I want to say Ayurvedic medicine is thought to be this like hits every aspect of health. So like getting some black seed oil, maybe putting it on a salad, ingesting it is good for inflammation, respiratory, skin. The skin one is super hard to find really good stuff for and major cancer stuff. If you remember oh, I'm gonna say it wrong. I say it all the time. Quinine, right? And then quercetin. This is gonna sound very similar. It's thymoquinine. It's thymoquinone. So it's in that similar family. It's not a huge deal that you don't know that. That's no big deal. But thymoquinone is the thing in the black seed oil that allows it to be this super potent oil you can use on like salads and maybe start looking. I don't know about cooking yet because you don't know what happens where that happens there, but it's something to think about. Um, Now the last one, I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna research it hard because of this research that I found. So mitochondrial dysfunction is a major one for chronic fatigue, major chronic pain, actually. So a lot of those type of things they lead to. So the chronic pain starts, and your mitochondria of your cells start messing around. So they have found that B3, a form of it called niacinamide. So it's B3 though is probably the best chronic pain reliever out there as far as natural stuff. So I'm gonna make sure, and you got to take 50 milligrams like 3 times a day of this stuff. So my hope is I get a really good one at the office because obviously in a chiropractic office we deal with a lot of that, and so that would be a cool thing to just make sure I have in there. So just on those notes, that is good. Amy, you have anything before
Nope.
we start? Yes.
Nope.
No, I'm excited for this one because it's different.
Yeah.
It should be really, really good. Um, yeah, we don't get to talk a ton about kids stuff a lot of times. View slideshow. Okay. So 1% tribe and an herbal approach to help your child with attention. And so tonight we're going to talk about this. I want you to really discern, though. I want you to discern because there's a lot of variances in this. Okay. So we're going to start with like a basic functioning, level of what we can do. And it might not work for everybody, obviously, and there's pros all over the place. The biggest thing is like having that empowerment of understanding like what we can do that can be really, really good. All right. So, what we're going over tonight is helping a parent and the supporters of that parent with holistic tools that they can use in conjunction with a child to help them be able to have a greater life experience. This isn't necessarily about behaving better. We'd like these kids to actually like to be on, like the interactions that are out there, right? We want them to have those joyous moments versus fight all the time. And, if somebody with attention deficit, or a parent of that, it's a constant battle. It's like you're going to war all the time. Let's make that better. And that's what tonight will be kind of about. And the biggest thing tonight is going to be remembering that that nature always doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference. And with that mindset, we have to figure out how we do this for these children. So, like, how do we empower the kids with that kind of knowledge if what we believe is that we are perfect? We just have to figure out what those interferences are to be being that perfect you, right? And so we will go over a holistic approach with herb and other ways to help. So that's it. All right. So how do we figure out what we can do? So the biggest thing in the beginning of this tonight will be understanding what is occurring the best to our knowledge, right? So we're going to talk about a little bit of hyperactivity. There's lots of different variances of this. Okay. So what you need to do as a parent, a grandparent, any of these, try to figure out and really dive into like what is happening, right? So all we can do is have the reaction. We can have the symptom. We can have those kind of things. What is that symptom telling us? We have to dive deeper, instead of getting rid of the symptom. What is the symptom telling us? Okay. So we got to start from like, I call it 40,000-foot view, right? Get away from it. Like instead of saying, okay, they're overreacting to something, right? This kid is overreacting to the food I put in front of them for dinner. Step back and then say, okay, why is this occurring? That's one of our things that helps immensely as we approach this, a smaller, like a step back approach a little bit. So the definition of hyperactivity disorder is a mental condition beginning in childhood and often persisting later in life that is characterized by a persistent difficulty in maintaining attention and concentration, and is frequently accompanied by hyperactive and impulsive behavior. Okay. So a lot of times this is a very good definition. And as I have seen in my years, there's a lot that goes into this. So just to let you know, that's the definition we're starting with. And so as we go, maybe we'll see some other stuff. There are many medical interpretations of this condition, but what do we know through natural law? Okay, so that's where we're going to go to. As before we go on to the slides tonight, what do we notice about a kid that's going through some of this? One of the things we should in our head think, okay, why are they hyperactive? Why are they impulsive? In the sense of what is happening in that, and so there's so many different levels of this, and so we will go through thoughts, toxins, and traumas. And as we go, that will tell us a little bit of perspective as we go. Okay, so let's go through what we naturally observe. What do we notice? These kids are paying attention to things, but they might just be the things that everyone else wants them to pay attention to. So one of my favorite lines of this is you put a kid with attention deficit in a room, put him in the back of the room where he can watch Billy pick his nose and, the other girl twirl her hair all day. And that can be one of the bigger issues because you can't stop watching those kind of things. They usually have particular diet choices, which is very obvious. Most of these kids have chicken nuggets and fries symptoms where you try anything outside of their natural or anything outside of their what they want, it is a battle. And that I've noticed almost on every different like variation. They have imbalance of emotions. So they have an imbalance or overreactions of emotions. Like these emotions that don't necessarily add up to what is occurring. Okay. And they're very compulsive. Things you may not, or the child will you may not want them to do, they will have a desire to do. So it's almost like that saying no makes it something happens in that brain that's like, oh man. So, I always think of this as like no different than all of us. Don't have the third cookie, that kind of thing. So I was like, yeah, if somebody said no to that, you're going to want to have the third cookie. But the problem is like some of these kids take it over that level. But understand, we're not coming this at an expert level. Okay. So it's not that a chiropractor knows all the pieces. I am only there for the tools and the natural law because we are experts at understanding innate intelligence. And that innate intelligence is going to allow us to add pieces to this that we can start to understand the interferences, and those interferences we can lead them to a better situation for them. All right, if that makes sense. All right, so now let's break down the child's environment. Okay, so we're going to start there. So we're going to start with, so we have thoughts, toxins, trauma. The one thing we've always known is once we start running a subconscious program, right? 95% of the time it is running. Okay. So we have to kind of evaluate where the environment came from. And as hard as it can be, we have to look at that. And so a lot of times, and it's nothing bad. We just have to know where the program starts. It's not the kid, right? It's just the program. So we just have to figure out, okay, what do we got to do different? Let's say the environment the kid is surrounded by. Let's say, so when the kid's growing, remember from the age 0, when they're born, to about the age of 6, a child is actually a tape recorder. So basically, this is from Dr. Bruce Lipton, they are soaking in their environment. 6 years can be a long time to create these different programs. Once the programs are created, then now we release them right into kindergarten, which is kind of hilarious because it's almost like, oh, maybe we should do some evaluation prior to kindergarten, in the sense of like, how are these environments out there or these programs getting written? So let's say the kid grew up in a very chaotic household. Maybe there was only one parent, and then there was a lot of fighting. There was, all these different things. That chaos can be in any kind of situation. But from 0 to 6, you got to remember it's a recording. These kids are getting that's the recording they're learning. Okay. And so once that recording happens, the subconscious doesn't even know what they're going to run. Remember, that's the rules of epigenetics. Okay. So this is no different in that situation. So was their environment chaotic? Was it traumatic? So you can have a traumatic, or was it great? Some kids, maybe it was great and there was just a different situation. So you have to see all those different environments to help you understand, are we going to work on the subconscious program or is there something else going on? So is the thought process about that subconscious program, or are we going on to the next step, which could be toxins or trauma, right? So those absolutely could be two things. So how about the health of those that surround the kid? So let's say you had a mom that was sick all the time, chronically ill. had a bunch of chronic ailments, has a baby, do you think that kid's gonna, not have a situation like that? Are we gonna, like what if the mom wasn't exactly the beacon of health, or the father? The father has a big role to play in this. So if you had both a husband or a wife in this situation, and they're both sick, or they're not, like they're living on a lot of medications or those kind of things, those could be huge. So so that is another connector. So if you're sitting back from a 40,000 foot view, now we see this reaction through the attention issue. Is it go back and look at the environment? Okay. Don't make any judgments. It doesn't matter. We can go from today on to the next one. The environment, okay? It looks perfect. We go into, oh, okay, our health was crap. We ate junk as parents, right? So we ate junk, we did all these things, you know, partied hard, whatever, right? Now we know that is part of, maybe it's the toxic role. All right. How about connection? Connection is the other one that is huge that I see. Was there an opportunity to connect to family? Sometimes these children don't have that, and I say it all the time, and it's a tough pill to swallow. Sometimes the medication that we use in pregnancy can actually stop some types of hormones that allow the connection. One reason why postpartum depression happens, um, is the lack of that connection between mom and the baby in the scenario that we are in. And so that's why I always push for as natural a birth as you possibly can. If you can't, you're hanging on to that baby every moment you can, and like, so sometimes C-sections will have those issues because you can't exactly grab the baby right away, those kind of situations. So those are some key points that, like, as a parent, as a guardian, as a anybody that's connected to these kids, let's start looking at that and then saying, what can we do about it now? Right? Past is past. We know that part, right? But what can we do now to start having them run a program that's better, eating better, like having a better connection? All those things could lead to a much better situation. Okay. These are all important to understand for the key role of the subconscious, because most of the time the subconscious program is the reason attention issues are happening. Those kind of things. This isn't about if the parent is any good. This has nothing to do with that, right? We just have to see what's happening, right? There could be traumatic things that happen to the best parent on the planet between 0 and 6, right? We just got to see what that is. I tell this story all the time. The subconscious program, that my favorite part of remembering this is, I tell the parents, people all the time, when you get these subconscious programs, what happens is, sometimes, let's say you just don't like the color yellow. You despise the color yellow for some reason. You have no idea why. No one's ever asked why you don't like yellow, right? And then if you look back, let's say you were 2 years old and a little old man was at the grocery store and he was wearing a yellow shirt, and you were reaching up to touch, grab a piece of candy out of the thing because and the guy yelled at you. That created the subconscious program to cause it to have this thing that says, "Hey, I don't like yellow." And that's as real as it gets with programming like that. So, but understanding where that subconscious program is, how the kid's responding to everything around them, you can see, and parents that have a child like this know what I'm talking about. You can see when it occurs, right? Maybe it's going into school, maybe it's going to bed. Those two key ones. Bed is a tough one, man. Like, I don't know. That one's just, in general, for parents, that's a tough one. Attention deficit kids, hyperactive kids, the battle is real. Now let's see how we can, okay, so now let's see how we can figure out their physiological reasons. So, is the kid sick all the time? were the parents sick prior to? So let's say they were a chronic, let's say a mom or something was sick all the time. Maybe they had, let's say they had arthritis or a gut problem. Let's say they had IBS or one of these gut issues, Crohn's disease, and you end up having a baby, right? Remember where we get our gut bacteria from, right? So baby is not born with gut bacteria. It gets it from the mom twice. So you get what they call, so how the cycle goes like this. So baby comes, as the baby's delivered, the first gut bacteria they will experience is vaginally. Okay. So from vaginal, after a while, the mom will have, as the mom breastfeeds, they will get the next level. So level 2 of gut bacteria will be when mom starts to breastfeed. Level 3 is when baby starts interacting with father, as well as getting out in the yard and like natural day-to-day stuff. So that the level 3 is actually where our adult microbiome is. So it's always up here. What they found in studies is that one antibiotic dose to a 2-year-old will drop, and it takes years, to get up to this level 3 microbiome. So your gut being up there. A scientist actually did a study on this, did a TED talk and everything, that I thought was fascinating. He's just scientists. They were just doing the microbiome and learning these level 1, 2, and 3, right? He got his baby. Their baby was up to about, I think, 3 years old or 2.5 is when they got to the level 3. And you're like, oh, that's cool. The kid had an ear infection, though. And when he had the ear infection, they gave him an antibiotic. When he gave him the antibiotic, he went down to level 2, almost back to level 1. And it took about 8 months to get them back to level 3. So thinking in that terms, what if a mom had antibiotics prior to the baby being born, or they never had good gut bacteria prior to? Now all of a sudden the kid's already behind the 8 ball and having to expand this gut bacterium, this microbiome, like the entire time. So just some food for thought on how deep this stuff goes. Does mom have gut issues? Does dad have gut issues? Those are major pieces to it. Okay. Was the child sick when born? That's another good one. Was the child sick like as they were, being born? Sometimes the medications you have to do, you just even in the survival of the child, if we have a good way to recover from that, which is what holistic is actually about, is always about, always living our best life that way. That would, those are big pieces. So this gives you the broader picture. Hopefully this is making sense, but it gives you a broader picture of what to look at, because I always think with my poor hyperactive kids, my parents of that, it feels overwhelmingly almost impossible to do, and so they are constantly reaching out in different ways. And it's almost like looking at it this way might give you those answers. So that's just my 2 cents on those parts. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go through what I would think could be a good way to kind of interact and see if you have this hyperactive child or someone in your family, because it does not have to be your child. Like for me, I want to see, these families and groups of people, like anybody in that child's life. It's so cool to see. My nephew has a couple guys that are really, really close, other than people that live, like are his, of relation. He's got a guy that takes him fishing all the time. It's awesome to see that. And so once you get these other relationships, those people also would like to see, like, what could they do as well. So the first step is to help with the program. So we need to start with the subconscious program. We really need to harness the subconscious program, figure out what that is, and work with a kid in a meaningful way that can really move the needle. So these are the ones that I always go to first, because, you never know. Let's say, so put a child in a highly active situation. If sports is not your thing, find a farm. And I'm not kidding about that. I'm absolutely dead set. Find a farm, get that kid out in the yard working. Okay. It helps my hyperactive kids all the time. One of my favorites, I can't give his name right now. This kid is so different than what this kid was off the walls, like off the walls when he was like young. So I took care of him when he was about 2 to, oh man. I mean, he was pretty young. He was probably walking at the time. Since he was a little dude, he was insane the amount of activity this kid had. But now he's probably 18 now, and the balance and him understanding, like he is physical all the time. He does horses, I mean, you wouldn't even know that he was hyperactive at all. The only way you would, if I had a video, you wouldn't even believe it. Like, so I cannot wait for his senior year because I can't wait to see his senior trip or whatever, or those parties they have, because it'll be a good one. Talk to your child when they're open to doing it and seeing how helping you, how can you create your own game plan with them, right? See what they think, in the sense of subconsciously we got to figure out what there is. Most kids want to be successful. They really do. It's just, what is the subconscious programming not allowing them to do that, right? And so I have another one that has a staff member that the kid really wants to do well in class, but he just is nuts in the beginning of in the year. And we did some herbal stuff, and now he's doing a lot better in, those little things. It's little steps with these guys too, if you figure out where you got to go, and they're little steps, just like a holistic journey would ever be. Take a food diary. That's kind of important because of we don't know if it's a thought, a toxin, or a trauma, right? So we want to make sure we want to hammer this stuff out prior to having to go to years and years of an expert, and doing those kind of things. So these are places you can start with your own kid and then go from there. All right. And then the biggest thing from tonight is, please understand, this is not a magic bullet. This isn't as solid as I am with white willow bark for, pain, right? Like there is a lot of different nuances. There's a lot of layers that we have to figure out, as we go. And sometimes it absolutely takes a community. So whatever that takes for you, get to those therapists, get to the, chiropractor, get to the, grandparents, and, all those different people. It takes a village to raise a child, and we have to get back to that. We have to listen to our elders. It's not like attention deficit hyperactivity is the first time it's ever occurred. We act like it's this new thing. I guarantee they had it in the 60s. I guarantee they had it in the 70s. My mom, she won't mind. I'll get on there. She actually just met with a guy that found out she'd been kind of diagnosed with the wrong situation. And she goes, Jeremy, she's a teacher. It makes total sense. She goes, I had ADD the entire time. And she feels great right now because they're kind of like doing their medical side of that. And she never knew it until she was in her 70s. So those are the kind of things. Back then, though, you just adapted different, right? And so we didn't make it, there was a lot of different situations that way. But just understand, it takes a village. Don't isolate yourself. Now, let's go through the cool herbal treatments. And the ones that we have that we start with at the office, we call it the kids attention pack, or kids attention and sleep pack. So that's where we're at. All right. So this one's kind of funny. I'll tell you later. Miss Teresa Beach was a little panicked because lemon balm. So most of these tinctures, ladies and gentlemen, have a touch of alcohol in them. Okay, so if we do a tincture, it's not a alcohol that's good. It's just to make the herbal more potent, right? So it's nothing that you have to worry about is that, but that is what, kind of makes up a tincture. If you're not comfortable with that, obviously there's other options. There's teas, there's powders, there's all those kind of things. So we always thought it was funny. One of the ones, so this is from my awesome group, from my Amish herbalists down in Sturgis. It's called Chups. Chups has one that they live by. It's called lemon balm. Lemon balm is one of those for insomnia, a kid that has trouble going to bed, and just sleeping problems in general. Now, most of you will say, okay, sleep, melatonin. Melatonin is really one that I don't love. There's two reasons. One, it's a herb, or I'm sorry, it's a hormone. So because it's a hormone, you don't want your body to constantly not create it. And so what happens is like if you're giving melatonin, you can actually cause a reversal of that sleep pattern if given too often. And so a lot of times I will try everything else you can before, you go to the melatonin aspect. Now there's a ton out there that can help. One of the other ones I love is chamomile. There's a lot of good natural sleeping agents, like herbal wise, and relaxants, right? So lemon balm is a really good one, and kids like it because it tastes like lemon. So very, very good. The two formulas that we use from Chops, they are kind of proprietary, but they use one that's Kids Attention Plus and a Kids Mellow Plus. And these are one is Kids Attention. You do that one, let's say before school, see how it goes. And then the Kids Mellow Plus. The Kids Mellow is like you're at church and they're getting squirmy, right? So those are three different ones that you can, in fact, make it something that the kid owns. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. The two are a combination of, yeah, we already went through that. There are so many options out there. It's just a good. So these are three combinations that we really, really like ourselves personally in the office. Chiropractic care can be a huge part of this. One is not just about the chiropractic portion, but it's the relationship in between to see, chiropractic, it gives you another eyes on the kid. Another thing that is rare, and I'm going to bring it up today because muscle testing a child in two different ways is something I do on a regular basis. This muscle testing aspect helps kind of figure out what kind of nutrition may be needed or possibly what the kid is allergic to. So they could have some allergies that are causing this. Is anybody ever heard of the red dye situation? If you've heard of the red dye situation, that is no joke. In fact, when I go to questions, I might try to find a red dye video and show you what that looks like. All right. All right. Okay. So that is all I got, except for this. What are we going to do for the 1% tribe tonight? Evaluate the situation. Take a step back. The information you can gather will be critical in understanding what will work and what will not work. Get some various herbal treatments. Start them. Your kid will be on board with you, I promise. At the same time, it's one of those things where, kids want to be a team player, right? And so a lot of times my kids will get through it. Like my little guy that I was telling about that had trouble in school, he really wants to be good for his teacher. He really likes that teacher. So he's willing to do the herbal supplement that he thinks is helping. And then the teacher's saying it's helping a lot. So that's what you can ask. Community is vital. I find that some of these times it's the isolation, in my opinion, the isolation of, a family kind of on their own, maybe no one, and this is going to sound terrible. Maybe you have like some relatives that don't want to see the kids because they're too crazy or, those kind of things. Find a community that's not the way it is. Like get these kids eyes on some kind of good conversation. In fact, what's crazy, is I have better conversations most of the time with kids than I do with adults. They're way more fun. So try to hang out with those people that will help you with that. Okay? Because they can. Sometimes it's just a connection thing, right? I always think of this in terms of like, think of your grandma, right? And if your grandma's not around, find a grandma, right? They're out there. They'll help. All right. Oops, sorry. And then try chiropractic and think about getting that whole holistic evaluation going, because I think that could help a lot, with the muscle testing. Very simple, but structured as the journey goes. All right. That was good. All right, hang on. I think we did all right.
Yeah.
Felt a little lectury, but that's all right. That does happen. I'm gonna look on here. What? Do you have any questions, Amy? Let me see. No. Let me see if we got. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, I always think this is. Let me look up that red dye thing real quick. Hey, you got to see this if it's true. It was years ago. I want to see if it'll happen. Maybe they don't have it. Oh man. Well, I won't keep us waiting because I should have grabbed that before. So, well, years ago, I saw this one clip of a kid just normally reading a book, right? And this is when I knew nutrition was a key piece to this whole thing. When they immediately introduced him with a little bit, like a just red, they put red M&Ms in the room, like a little, cup of them. This kid went off the chain exactly like a hyperactive kid would, and so that was one of the toughest ones I saw, because I was like, oh my goodness. Because the kid, like when you look at these conditions, you see it's an overactive. It's definitely not a normal reaction, like to whatever that emotion is. And so whatever we can do in that approach will be very good for them. So I like it. But yeah, I think we did good. I think hopefully that'll help some people out. And next week, I don't know what I'll talk about. I might do chiropractic principle 3 again, because I'm thinking we got to go there a little bit, because we got a ton of different conditions that we can go through. So I might do that. So
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, have a good night.
You too. Bye.